Okay, Zels, I'm going to start you with this one. 29 all the baby Boks against the New Zealand under-20 side. I know they like to be called the junior Boks, but I always think of them as the baby Boks. A game everyone expected them to win and win well. They're 29-15 up. They get to 29-22. They have a gimme 3 points. They turn it down. They've already got the bonus point. They can't lose the tournament. They concede a try. 29 all, and New Zealand has a chance to win at 32-29. They would still win the title, South Africa, but then they get the ball in the 81st minute, 29 all, and they belt it into the grandstand and they celebrate a draw like it's something spectacular. And I just wondered in that moment, and kudos to them for winning it, I just wondered in that moment about their psyche. Who walks off that field thinking about the World Cup and says, hang on a second, these guys were content to walk out of there with a draw and not go for the win, given they couldn't lose the title. What was your thought at that stage? Am I being unfair, or did it maybe cross your mind as well?
Mate, it crossed my mind because I received the WhatsApp from you immediately saying, "I can't believe they kicked it out."
and I know that I didn't say it as politely as I said it this morning. I think there were a few expletives in that one.
I don't remember it like that. No, mate, I think you're 100% on point there. If you look ahead, if you're the All Blacks, you go, look, we chased these guys down on their home patch to the point where they were just happy to settle with the draw and get away from it, And I suppose that definitely does give the All Blacks another bullet, I suppose, in the magazine going into that tournament. I also think that if the Boks had played on and somebody had got a crucial injury in that final 2-minute spell as they chased the try, and then inevitably he didn't get it, we'd all say, mate, why don't you just kick the ball out? There's no need. I mean, now this bloke's injured. So I think your point is valid. I think it's a reflection of the fact maybe they were gassed, they were tired, the morale was maybe not there to push, and everybody was just like, listen, we've weathered the storm, these oaks have chased us, we've won the tournament, let's just get out of here.
Yeah, and I mean, well done to them. They didn't win it last year, and as Riley Norton said afterwards, it was the one they wanted, over and above, obviously, the bigger picture being the World Championship. But I don't know who plays for draws. I know Frans Steyn doesn't. I remember his last game at school, he for the win. Why do you want to draw a game? So kind of just left a little bit of a taste in my mouth. Very different to the taste that I felt on Friday night when it went to the TMO. Leland Zasa scored. Why don't you dive and score? Then I thought, what a great cover tackle. Then I was surprised it went to the TMO, given the TMO hadn't kind of really intervened when they should have. And the Stormers got out there with 38 all. And I said, you know what? I don't really mind a draw. So 3 league points is better than 1. So kudos to the baby Boks. Well done. They are the SANZAR under-20 SANZAR under-20 champions. First time ever for them. And it sets them up well. Two wins and a draw. It sets them up for the World Championship in Georgia in 6 weeks' time. So Riley Norton, a good one for you. He just keeps on bringing in those trophies. And a lot of Stormers boys doing quite well for them there. Of the Stormers contingent, who impressed you the most from the under-20s?
Well, it wasn't Marcus Miller, mate. It's a pity he didn't play in the tournament. I was very much looking forward to seeing him go, but I thought Riley Norton was outstanding, mate. Just great effort, great leadership, and just his contribution in some of the dirty work I thought was top tier. So he's obviously a bright one to watch for the future. Then just a little side note, pity about Ethan Adams. Sorry that his tournament had to end that way. What a beast. And looking forward to seeing him get back ASAP.
Yeah, and then why there seems to be a big issue with finding quality winners in great abundance where there normally is in this province. The 10 seem to be dropping out of trees quite nicely. Our Weinberg old boy at 10. You like him?
Yeah. Yakin, I think, is playing fantastic rugby for the junior Boks. We've got some youngsters who are shining at the schoolboy level, and you saw Zeke on the weekend again starting for the Sharks. What a way to debut at Flyhalf at the senior level. So, we've got an abundance of talent there. I mean, as you say, for years we were kind of scratching our head going, who's going to play Flyhalf if Andre drops out? Or who's going to play Flyhalf if, Morné Steyn's not available? So, it's great to be in that position.
Which brings me to 10s. He's got a lot of flack. I don't know why. It's 147 points he scored. He and Chris Smith are top of the table now when it comes to point scorers in URC. I just thought Sasha Feinberg and Ngomazulu was just outstanding against Ulster. The full bag of tricks. Scored a couple of tries. made a couple of tries, and then also saved a couple of tries. I mean, that guy's defense is one of the unsung aspects of his game. It reminds me of a young Johnny Wilkinson. He puts his body on the line. He fronted the big flank at one stage, jolted him. I think they were trying to go to the TMO as well for a shoulder to the head, which it never was. And then a fantastic cover tackle. I mean, getting it, coming into his own just at the right time of the season. And that's what I'm finding when I look at the last round and then going into round 18. A lot of the big name players, the big guns, they start flexing their muscles when it comes to round 17, round 18. Playoffs are there, and then we all know what comes. 6 months of Springbok rugby. It's known when to peak and kind of knowing when to be there. And you know what they say, last one in is top of mind. So, Sasha, just outstanding game.
Yeah, sensational. Him and Damien Phillips, I thought, you know, two of the superstars, I suppose, in the team, like the most high-profile players, and just the effort that they made on defense in that game, sensational. Just the speed and the effort and the commitment to the cause, I thought was brilliant. Yeah, and then obviously Sasha with some of his kicks and some of his plays, his audacious creation and try assists and the rest of it. Just obviously top draw stuff.
And just his acceleration. I mean, that one where it was ridiculous kind of stuff. I mean, he was just walking, and then he beats the center. You know, he kind of sizes up the props and then beats the center. And there's a part of me that thought, I think you could actually do the outside swing and go on your own. Damien got caught there. But as much as I like to trumpet Sasha, obviously I like to trumpet Evan Roos, and that's one he will want to forget. Just in terms of big plays at moments, a bit of a brain implosion. I always say that's kind of, he just sent that highlights reel straight to Rassie. Every time Rassie doesn't pick him, he's going to haul out that highlights reel and show me that and say, and what do you say now? So I was a little bit frustrated given how well he's played all season, the maturity he's shown to his game. And then the one I expected to make a big box statement was going to be Evan Roos against Ulster. And then there was another guy who made a statement to the national selectors, Johannes Augustus, Trocchi, who really played well, and then his mate Imi Khan helped him by kind of like sitting down for 30 meters while he did a bit of a charge. So he played well. Cammy Honeycomb's come through into his 6th game now since that horrific injury had put him out for a year. Jasper Visa, we know he's back on the field in Japan. So the number 8 stocks are there.
Yeah, look, loose forward is not a position that South Africa has anything even remotely that smells like a shortage of talent. Siba Mahashe from the Lions this weekend I thought was outstanding. There's another guy who's bursting through. You got the Shituka brothers. You could go on and on and on and on. We've got a massive pool of loose forwards to choose from. Whoever you pick, you're leaving out somebody who's amazing. I still rate Evan Roos extremely highly, and amongst our sort of heavy weather direct north-south runners, I think he's right up there. But definitely that'll be a game you'll want to improve on, and hopefully we see that reaction this week against Cardiff.
And then, I mean, the big talking point, Branas, just, I mean, you know, Dobbo spoke about it afterwards. There's this obsession in rugby at the moment. And we all know, it's like, let's stop any potential lawsuits that are coming when it comes to accidental head clash. And I'm not for one moment knocking the fact that rugby is a dangerous game. Concussions do exist, and there can be ramifications. There's a hell of a lot of guys who play this game. A lot of them who play professionally. And if you had to rule every accidental head clash, you wouldn't have a pick and go. You could rule 40 of them in the game. We tend to rule the ones that happen in back play, mostly at an angle. But everyone's been talking for a long time now. The croc roll should be ruled out of the game in the sense that that's where your biggest damage gets done. Taking guys' knees out at the ruck, at the breakdown, lower backs, far more permanent damage than accidental head clashes. And Dion Fourie won the ball. The penalty's being given, and Ian Henderson basically does the tackle, and then, you know, whether it's malice or not, it to me is as irrelevant. How it was only even given a yellow card, it quickly got upgraded to a red card. But no hoo-ha about that. That could potentially be the end of this guy's career, given he's 40, he's come back from so many injuries, and that knee. And that's what that's the biggest irritation I have with rugby at the moment, is we will talk about an accidental head clash, we'll go back and refer it for 5 minutes, where it could be the guy slipped or the guy's ducked, and it's very contentious. But when we see the blatant ones, no one cares. It's when we see Ethan Hooker getting jumped on and he's out for 3 months, no one seems to care then. And it just pisses me off, bud.
Yeah, no, look, I can completely relate to that, and I agree on all counts there. I think there's a much longer list of former rugby players whose lifestyles have been impacted by lower back injuries, knee injuries, neck injuries, and have to live with it every single day. So I think that is an issue to definitely try and tackle. And I think back to the evolution of Super Rugby. We had the experimental law variations and all that sort of stuff. Remember back in the day, they got really, really tight about entry into breakdown in terms of you had to come through the gate, and it was all about taking off and landing and what a bird can see and all sorts of stuff. But they used to be really strict about entering north-south and kind of uh, policing that. And I think rugby's got quite far away from that. And I mean, I understand the motivation behind it because the game flows more, you have fewer penalties. But I think you're getting a lot more side entries basically to breakdowns now than ever before. And I'm not saying this was the case in this Brunnis incident, but I just think that you probably limit the opportunities for those kind of things to happen if the entries are more vertical than semi-horizontal. But yeah, definitely, I thought that was an incident that, yeah, very, very unfortunate. You think of how hard Brunnis has worked to get back onto the field, the number of serious injuries he's had. You just got to hope that this isn't the end for him, and that he bounces back quickly from it. But definitely a trend of some of the older guys. I mean, Ethan Hooker's obviously a youngster, but some of the older guys breaking down as we get closer and closer to the test season, and as we get closer and closer to the 20.
Yeah, and then you look at a guy like Rod Fenter. I mean, he's played so well. He was unfortunate. He got that suspension. He came back. He got a concussion. I mean, he's that hybrid role of going from close side flank to number 4 lock, and he's certainly been one of the form forwards in South Africa, and someone that's knocking on that Springbok door for him to potentially. We don't know how serious it is on this Monday morning. For him potentially to be out for a few months, you just think this was going to be his breakthrough season. His name not being there with the injuries, you start looking at areas that we thought we were very strong in terms of depth. Come this international season, that's going to have 14 matches. We start off on the 20th of June against the Barbarians, and then the 13 test matches, including 4 against the All Blacks, rugby's greatest rivalry. 3 of them in South Africa, 1 in Baltimore. But lock position is one that you're starting to think, like, hang on a second, who's still going to be standing? And you think a guy like Eben Etzebeth has timed it to perfection. The way to make sure you play 12, 13 test matches is play 1 game for your club. I mean, he's been outstanding. And you can see why Randburg is saying, hang on a second, Zimbabwe, I don't yet know if I want to go there. Maybe last man standing about in the South African contingent in URC when it comes to locks. But like we say, loose in abundance, some really good fly off, but scrum off and lock at the moment, not looking quite as healthy and as fat on the bone as it did 6 months ago.
Yeah, no, totally. And I suppose anytime you have these veterans that sustain their positions in the top teams in the world and kind of own it and are there week in and week out, there's no other way. There's no other outcome that you're going to get than a vacuum behind those guys to the next tier, because everyone's waiting for their turn to play. When you've got a bloke like Evan who's played 650 tests, it's quite difficult to kind of give other guys opportunities around that. So, you got Louis de Jager, you got Sean Klein, you got Erkje Snyman, you got Evan, Peter Steph de Toy's a guy you can have in that conversation, Franco Mostert. All of those guys are, you could argue, on the wrong side of, 32, I suppose. And so this is one of the pitfalls of that is the injury thing and the recovery time from those injuries at that age. So I've got no doubt that we've got locked talent in this country. We just spoke about Riley Norton, but the point is that talent hasn't been thrust into the furnace, right? That we haven't tested them at the hottest levels yet because these other blokes have been getting gaps. So that's where the injuries start to raise questions about the not the credibility, but the battle readiness. Are they battle tested at that next level? And I suppose that's something we're going to find out if these injuries continue.
I mean, we're going to round 18 this weekend. Stormers second, Bulls fourth. They have qualified already. The Lions started round 17 in third place. SA Shield champions, everyone gung-ho. Rudolph Stroily saying, we never doubted Cash. How could you guys doubt Cash? And there could be, and it's not the biggest chances it could be that they don't make the top eight. If every other result went against them, I don't think it's going to happen. I think they just do have enough comfort to squeeze into a sixth or seventh place. But it shows you how quickly things change in this competition. No one expected Munster to fall away against Connacht, 26-7, a bonus point win there. It puts Ulster in a difficult position. They now have to basically get something out of the match against Glasgow. Do they sacrifice that and pick their best team to go play Montpellier in the EPCR Challenge Cup final the week after that? Or do they say, handle, because Montpellier is second in the top 14. Or do they say, we have to go for both, or we could be nowhere. We lose that final, doesn't give us automatic qualification to the Investec Champions Cup, and we end ninth, we don't get in. So there's so much jeopardy going into this last round. You get the Stormers, they win, they will consolidate second position. Worst case scenario, they'll finish third. The Bulls, they're good for fourth. I'm backing them to get the 5 points against Benetton. And the Lions, the team we were raving about, they had such incredible form at Ellis Park. They go on the road, and in the last 10 minutes, you just get the feeling right now, are they really good enough to challenge for this title on the road? And my answer is emphatically no.
No, look, I don't think the Lions can win the URC on the road, and just winning a playoff game on the road, I think, is the equivalent of a final for them. To be fair, they did have to go to Dublin. It's not like they were playing Zebra in Italy, and they have to play Munster in Limerick, I think it is. So those are two tough assignments, arguably the toughest aside from the Huffeld Challenge, I suppose, for the European sides. And I thought the Lions did a great job right up until the point where they started kicking kickable penalties into touch and trying to force lineouts and things. I think that was an admission that they don't know when they're going to get back to that side of the field, so let's try and get the most points while we're there. And I think Leinster have seen that many times. So I think when you've got the accountant at 10 and you get an opportunity to put 3 points on the board in a 14-7 game, you take it. And I think that's probably a bit of a learning for them. Having said that, they did lose Ruan Fenter, like you mentioned earlier, and that would have shaken their plans a bit. But all in all, I was impressed with the effort right up until that last quarter when the floodgates just opened and Leinster's class came through. And that's something that hopefully the Lions can pull together against Munster this week. But it's going to be an interesting finish. Like you say, everybody's position's kind of in flux in terms of where they might finish. If you try and forecast the quarterfinals, it's quite dicey. But I've got a good feeling the Lions are going to be there and they're going to be in Cape Town playing the Stormers. That's my guess.
So you're saying 3 plays 6 or 2 plays 7? Or do you say...
Well, mate, we're going to find out.
Or 1 plays 8. That's going to be the contest. But a name that didn't get mentioned after the Leinster game was Jacques Nienaber. Now, the Lions arrived in Dublin having scored the second most points in the competition. The Bulls had gone past them on Saturday for most points, most tries. And this Leinster side, having made 12 changes from the side that beat Toulon, limits this Lions attack to 1 try. And they were in their faces. It was typical Jacques Nienaber, aggressive, line speed, in your face for 80 minutes. And the Lions looked uncomfortable. They were forcing things. Like you say, it needed Chris Smith, the accountant, Sack's old boy, Marty's old boy. It needed him to play a bit more field percentages and not play that helter-skelter game, which suited the tempo that Leinster wanted to play at. But Jacques Nienaber's defensive mongrel was so evident in that game, and it really upstaged and upset the Lions. And what I took from that game, just as an observer, was there's league play and there's playoff play. And playoff play is not won by attack, it's won by defense. And that was a prime example of a mature team, even though there were 12 changes, a mature team that's been to plenty playoffs, and they played playoff rugby, and the other team was playing league rugby to try and force things. They were never going to win it. And then in the last 10 minutes, 3 tries, 19 points, 14-7 quickly became 31-7. And some people say an injustice to the Lions for efforts, but when you win 31-7, you've given them a good pasting.
Mate, you said that Jacques Nienaber wasn't mentioned in the post-match chat. Rico Ione actually did say, "Ons weet wat hulle weet." So I think that was Jacques' influence on Leinster's plan, mate. They knew the Lions. They knew the Lions. Jacques had got them prepped for it. I thought their defense was outstanding, mate. Like you say, to limit the Lions like they did was something else. That, in a way, they're like the Crusaders, aren't they? Just sharpening up at exactly the right time of the season. They're going into the sort of sharp end of the season. Somehow, Leinster going into the sharp end of the season with people having a giant question mark hanging over them. Can they really hold up against Bordeaux? Can these guys win the URC? That's exactly where they want to be. So I think they're pretty dangerous.
But I mean, we talk about Leinster in the URC and they've dropped games. They've dropped 6 out of 17. And then I look at the Bordeaux Begley. They've dropped quite a few in the top 14. They're fighting to get into that top 6 at the moment. So it's again, we keep on talking about this to a South African audience. This whole Investec Champions Cup balancing act with either the top 14, the Prem or the URC, it's not the easiest thing to do. And that's why the double has been done so few times, where a team can actually win both. You see Toulouse, when they got beaten, all their focus obviously on top 14, 51-27 at Toulon at the Stade Mayol against Toulon. They lost at home a week before that to Clermont with their full strength side there. Bordeaux haven't exactly been cleaning teams up at the moment. Their focus clearly on the Investec Champions Cup. And I do believe there's enough in Leinster to go and be competitive in that final and back themselves to win it, and then feel that they're well enough prepared with their squad they've got to do damage in a playoff system, quarterfinal, semi-final, and potential final in the URC. And that comes down to who has the greater squad depth. And I just found when you looked at the Lions, you looked at the Stormers even to a degree, that squad depth still isn't quite there when you're thinking a team that can go top 4 in both competitions, potentially to a final in both competitions.
Mate, I just want to say that I hope those pings is money coming in and not money going out.
You hear those guys go ping?
Yes,
I could tell you where he's from, but I won't.
Don't say it, mate. So, mate, you're talking about the Stormers, obviously disappointing results at Ulster and Belfast, primarily because I thought they did a great job sort of controlling the game. They looked to be the dominant team. The attack was on fire. Most post-contact meters per carry of the season for us. And I thought we were right there, mate. We did everything. We got right to the front door. We just couldn't get it across the line. And I think that's the disappointing thing. It's frustrating because I think it's quite a big swing. You turn those into tries, and it's not just that, you're going to win 58-38. You're probably going to win, by 20 points. You're going to win 45-20 or something. So it's quite a big swing when you don't get it right. And that's something that we need to obviously improve on. And I think that's a big focal point for the team. And this week you come up against the Cardiff side that technically you have to be on point for because they've got a great defense, they've got a massive kicking game, and obviously they're at home where they don't lose very often, if at all. So it's a huge challenge, and as much as it doesn't instill confidence when you don't go on a long run of wins, and I'm saying this for all teams. The reality is that a team of the Stormers' potential or the Bulls' potential, just given the quality of player in there, if they turn it on, they can beat anybody on the day. And I think, everybody's just waiting for it to click and for that consistency to come through. So, good feelings. Hopefully the playoffs go the right way. We get into the playoffs the right way. And the Stormers have definitely got the firepower to win the URC. It's just about everything coming together for that full 80-minute performance when it matters most.
Right. So, I mean, realistically, you're looking at the Stormers, Bulls. Those are going to be our greatest challenge if it comes to winning this title or being in a final.
Yeah.
Bulls, 54 points to 19 against Zebra. Zebra's got the worst defense in the competition. They're bottom of the table, 2 wins from 17. Context is everything there. Johan Ackermann happy with the result, not happy with the performance. Understandably so, it was sloppy. They scored 8 tries. They could have had a lot more. I think in an ideal world for him, he just doesn't want to see 3 tries leaked against a side like that. But they did the job. Great to see Cam Honeycomb get through so much time and do so well. Marco van Staden playing at hooker, doing the business. Room for Mark doing well. I mean, Cheswell Juster only lasted 40, but looked good. Kainer Moody keeps on improving the more game time he gets at 13. And then the old master starts at 10, kicks 7 conversions, scores a try. Willie LaRue, I think he kicked 2 conversions in his entire career for Toyota Verblitz in 2022, and he had 3 by the 20th minute against Zebras. So it's hard to criticize a team that
Mate,
gets...
you just know that hamstring's tight today, mate. That right hamstring from the kicking is very tight today.
Well, he kicks on the left foot, so I think it's the way he landed.
Oh,
on
sorry,
the
left foot. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, I think 2 months ago, the Bulls supporters would have taken 54-19 after what was happening to them. So they should be given the 5 points against Benetton, who were woeful in Durban. A side like that with 10 internationals for Italy, and Jacob Umongo has played for England, to be 41-0 down going into the 77th minute. This is a week after beating Leinster. I mean, they've chucked in the towel, haven't they?
Man, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about that. I don't know if Jake found the secret to that gondola water, mate, and somehow got it back to South Africa, but they definitely didn't look at the races at the weekend. And, I mean, some of those attempted tackles by them was a joke. I don't know if it's too early to talk about the Stecco power play, mate, but it's definitely coming from that game. And Benetton will be disappointed with that result.
Well, the Stecco power play, I mean, one of our wonderful partners, Andre Esterhazen, is the ambassador hybrid. It's the hybrid power tool hero of the week. I want to give it to Andre the Giant every week. But let's hear what he has to say.
Some players choose a side. They've always said a back can never be a forward. But with Stecco, Rugby didn't just reinvent the rules, it changed the entire game. Hybrid tools for a hybrid craftsman. Stecco, shaping the future. 40 years of Rugby credibility.
I mean, Andre the Giant, did we give it to him?
Mate, I can't believe he told the ref that he knocked the ball on, scoring that try. No, that was great. That is something that's very unique to rugby, I think. Great sportsmanship there. But, mate, the hybrid power tools hero for me has to come from the hat-trick hero, the boogeyman, Lorenzo Julius, mate. His first try, he gets the ball, mate. I think it's in the 22. He dummies the one wing. He spins out of the scrum half's tackle. Now he's going backwards towards the try line. While he's trotting backwards, he fends off the 12, and then he turns and powers through the other wing's tackle. I'm not sure what more a guy is supposed to do to earn this award. It's obviously become very popular amongst the players, but he would be my of the week.
All right, there was a little bit of static. It is raining. The rain is so bad in Cape Town that the Stormers, the one positive about being in Cardiff is that they're not playing in Cape Town this week. Honorable mention for me, Sasha Zulu, always. I mean, just 21 points, but it's, again, the tries he saved, what he does on the field, just the time he has on the ball. But 100% agree with you, Zels, in terms of the boogeyman. But the guy on his inside, Andre the Giant, he has flourished as a captain, as a leader, and just his inspiration. So, and I never go against you when it comes to the Stecco hybrid hero. So it is Lorenzo Julius. Talking about hybrids, though, brother, your mate Lester F. Let's hear him say
Lester Fainganuku, yeah.
I love you saying
Lester Fainganuku.
7 and 12, mate, and he was brilliant against the Blues. A couple of chip kicks as well in his repertoire.
Well, I mean, he's basically playing 10 now, isn't he?
I mean, again, South Africa leading the way there with the way they look at selections. And the crazy thing is, when Scott Robertson did pick him, he stuck him in the 23, but only as a winner. They've even thought of bringing him to flank. What I do love about New Zealand, though, is they think everything's hunky-dory, because they just told Dave Rennie, Richie Mo'unga, even though he's going to be back in the country, he's not going to be allowed to play against South Africa because he has to play for Canterbury in the NPC, even though he's signed for 18 months. Because it sends out the right message as they drop another test. And then their acting CEO, Lancaster, saying, we know the system works for us. Mate, the system doesn't work for you.
The system isn't working, mate.
5 of your best players aren't being picked, and it could be why you're taking some record defeat. And why South Africa is one in the world and you're 2. But what I did say, Zels, was please continue thinking it works for you, because we in South Africa have no objection to you not picking the likes of Richie Mo'unga to play against us.
Yeah, mate.
Outrageously simple, narrow-minded, and insular once again from New Zealand. And I'm sure Dave Rennie must have thought Japan didn't look too bad at this stage when he starts hearing that.
This is what it must have felt like in the 90s as an All Blacks fan to be watching South African rugby and the decisions that came out of here then. Because it's just crazy. I don't think they realize how deep a hole they're in there and how much work they have to do to get out of it and how little time there is till that next World Cup. This series against the Springboks, I think, would be the perfect time to bring Richie back in. They've already established that between Bowden and D-Mac, they're not going to get the answer there. I think probably some of the sort of grey-haired guys have decided that this is the only way to secure an opportunity for Ruben Love to start at 10 at some point. And maybe that's fair play. I don't know. We'll get those answers, I suppose, during that series. But I think that's a crazy call. If I was the All Blacks, I'd say, Dave Rennie, here's the keys. Do whatever you got. If you want us to play in purple, we'll play in purple. Just get us back to winning ways pronto. So I think it's a nuts call. Back to Leicester, Fainga'anuku. Maybe they need to try Geordie Barrett on the flank, mate. It worked for Andre Estes and it's working for Fainga'anuku. Let's see Geordie Barrett get in there. Let's see what else we can do. Maybe David Avili, mate. But I do think that if they try that at the All Black level, I think Leicester may not enjoy the same experience at the breakdown with the likes of Marco van Staden, Malcolm Marx, Theo Kolisi, et cetera, et cetera. So let's see.
But if you look at New Zealand's Super Rugby and the wonderful interview that Sir Graham Henry did a couple of weeks ago, when he said the Super Rugby tournament is just not good enough to produce a World Cup winning test team or a very competitive test team that could be number one, why he felt also South Africa had the edge on New Zealand. And he also felt the fact that South Africa does pick from all over the world, it brings such a mentality that is different because you are embracing different cultures, embracing different trends. And he just felt that New Zealand have become too insular in their thinking because it's same old, same old. And it reminds me of before your time, Zels, when you were a pup and I was a grey old man already, was when we were in isolation. And we thought we could beat everyone because our Currie Cup was so strong. And when we came back into rugby in 1992, we got a hell of a shock. I mean, we got 2 late tries against New Zealand to make it look respectable at Ellis Park. We were 27-10 down going into the last 2 minutes. 26-3 at Newlands against Australia. Got beaten horribly by England at Twickenham. Knocked over once by France, quite comfortably in Paris. That 92 comeback season was such an eye-opener to us. While we think we've been doing it so well and so specially, the world had moved on. And I think New Zealand are a bit in that phase. They think everything is perfect in Super Rugby Pacific, but it's not, because they play against themselves and they play against an Australian setup that is very similar. And then they come into a test match against a good pack, a French pack, an English pack, a South African pack, and all of a sudden, even a Scottish pack where they struggled against, and everyone looks pretty damn ordinary again. So I think COVID did them a big dirty in terms of the insular nature of no one was let in for 2 years. And they've really been operating since South Africa were out of Super Rugby in their own little world. And it kind of shows they may be ranked 2 in the world, but the mentalities of a top 5 team, not a top 2 team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Razor's probably a great bloke. But I think where they went with Razor, finally appointing him, probably much later than they should have. I think they probably, and they have a right to feel like this, probably are disappointed that they didn't get the Russie out of Razor. In the sense that, like, people like to compartmentalize things. Go, oh, well, the Boks are so great because they've got all these players playing overseas. Other nations are paying their salaries. They've got this massive player pool, and that is true. But I think that if you gave this team over to a comedian, the Springboks would not be successful, right? And so I think people underestimate the value of having a coach who has a clear vision, a clear plan, and knows the detail of how to transfer the vision into the actual practical performance. And that's Russie. And so I think that's what they belatedly were hoping that Razor was going to bring to the party. But it turns out in hindsight that he was nothing like that. He was a concept guy, it seems like, and a bit of a visionary who maybe didn't have all those details nailed down. And I think Dave Rennie is probably closer to what they expected to get out of Razor. And so anything that pulls the handbrake up on what Rennie's trying to do is a very, very bad decision. And so to your points about how they think they've got it nailed down at the moment, I think that's the real sting in the tail of South Africa leaving. We talked about how they missed the physicality, but the real thing there is that it gives them perspective and context to the quality of their rugby. If they keep running at Australians, they're going to think they're still world champions. But, you needed the Boks there just to remind you, hey, the intensity level goes up a little bit against these guys. And I think that's what they're missing massively. And I'm not really sure how they can ever replicate that. Even if Rennie gets in there, he's still getting his guys from Super Rugby. Where do they go to find that brute physicality?
Yeah, but again, you want the All Blacks to be competitive for this to be the greatest series, to kind of start challenging the concept of a British and Irish Lions as a concept, the British and Irish Lions series and tours.
Yeah.
And having the All Blacks in this country for 3 test matches, the 4th one in Baltimore. And as I say, there will definitely be a winner. If it comes down to goal kicking, we got to back ourselves to be that winner. If it comes down to cleaning out the ruck, we got to back ourselves. If it comes down to if it comes down to back 3 play, well, maybe they've got a chance. So you want them to be strong. And what I did like about that under-20 performance was a New Zealand side that played with Tika and played with Mongrel and were physical and competitive and fought back from 29-15. I know they made quite a few changes, probably underestimated Argentina in the under-20 tournament and didn't quite have the depth, but their best 23 against pretty much our best 23, it was even Stevens. And looking at that scoreboard near the end, it gave me a little bit of a, yes, is this how the 3 test matches are going to be late in the year when the seniors and the big guns come out? And you would like to think that New Zealand will give themselves every chance to be successful and to repeat the 96 historic first ever series win. And then when you keep on going back to a rule book that's so outdated in how you apply principles of your game and say, we're not going to pick this guy. He's got to go play one game at least for Canterbury against God knows who to prove he's good enough to go on the end of the year tour when he's already committed for 18 months to be in New Zealand. It's just madness. But it's a madness that I love. It's a madness that I love, and long may it continue. You spoke about you could give the team, the Springbok team, to a comedian and it just wouldn't get the same results. And I hasten to remind you, we did give it to a comedian and we were 7th in the world. So we then gave it to a doctor and we now won in the world and we've won everything. So
no, mate. What?
Long may it continue that New Zealand keeps on getting it wrong and we keep on getting it right, mate. Honestly.
No,
I love it.
No, exactly. Yeah, no. It's glorious. I'm absolutely loving it. It is fantastic to see, mate. I know you wanted to talk some schoolboy rugby, mate. Let's get into it. What are you thinking there? What did you see at the weekend? You mentioned Sacks so valiantly and bravely early on with such optimism. How did they do at the weekend, mate?
Mate, typically they went down to Rondebosch 1917. Sacks are like Scotland. Brave, heroic, but invariably second. Okay, and then the team that we love now, because everyone loves a winner, Stellenbosch, they edged Oakdale 15-13. In Middelburg, it was like 11,000 people there for hot tests. Middelburg against Middelburg, one of the big derbies. Noordvaal, I mean, there's like 30 matches going on there. It was amazing. Some of the showdowns, how strong rugby is up there. Garsfontein still doing well. They would say, hey, we got claims to potentially being one in the country. They did edge Stellenbosch in one of the festivals in the last minute. But then going to, and then Paul Rus won comfortably. Paul Khim won comfortably. Boys High lost 32-22 against Grey College in Bloemfontein. But the one I think intrigued me was your guys in KZ. It looks like you've either got to win or lose by 1 or 2 points. Very close matchups there.
Mate, let me just mention that Millies went down to Belleville. It was just a bit of a disappointing result. Hilton smashed Glenwood, mate. Remember the mighty Glenwood, unstoppable for a while. And then Maritzburg College, they edged DHS, mate. And Northwood, 5-point win over Westville.
Yeah, well, Glenwood was strong when they basically bought the whole of the SS school side. Then Shawnee Rasmus was coaching there, and it really became a professional rugby academy.
I think John Allen played a few games for them, mate.
off the bench. Those days are gone. Shawnee Rasmussen went to Paul Boys High, did incredible stuff with them for 5 years, went to the Lions, into the under-20 set up there, and he's back with Paul Boys High. So he's got a bit of restructuring to do there. But our school's rugby, strong as always. There's something like 70 games that I glanced at, just the results, and I know there's about another 30 that weren't on the various sites. But if you go to Schoolboy Rugby, to me, it's the best Schoolboy Rugby site. If you just want a rap, you go to SA Rugby Magazine. Dol Johnson puts together a fine rap there. And then we like to boast on our show, we like to boast about winners. And this season, Flavour of the Month, the J Brigade, Stellenberg High. I think they've still got Paul Boys High to go this season. But when I look at the other opposition, I can't see anyone coming close to them. And in their 40-year history, that would be the most successful first team that they've had. I did look at some of the other results from under 16s down to under 14s. It may not be as flash next year, but who knows who they can get in the off season. But Schoolboy Rugby strong, and no show with us. We mentioned him a bit earlier, but France Steyn in the SA Cup, Cheetahs, and he said, "The boys saved my ass." So those were his words. Otherwise, if we weren't in the Curry Cup, he said he may not be in a job. But I think a young guy called Liam Kuhn saved his backside.
Indeed.
Conversion, unfortunately. Griquas went down by a point. And again, a lot of jeopardy going into that last round. Heineke Meyer's done wonders with SV Adir. They got a massive win, but then Boland got an even bigger win against EP. 80-plus points they scored. And edged out SV Adir on points differential. So Heineke's back in the business and already transformed a team that was nowhere a season ago, which also again just shows you the value of IP. And if you've got coaches who have coached at the highest level in our system, use them.
Mate, 100% agree with that. Not sure the value of some of the lower teams in the SA Cup. I mean, we've got, I think it was Border conceded 93 tries in 9 games, mate. We need to improve that. We need to help those guys. And Leopards were not that far behind either. 73 tries in 9 games. So that's something we want to improve. Maybe they need some of that IP, mate. We need to get that IP over there, help those teams improve. But definitely, I think Harvey Spurry and Heineke Meyer in the SA Cup, you couldn't have dreamed about having something like that at that tier of our rugby. Massive resource for us and our players. If we do uncover any rare diamonds at that tier and it progresses through the box, we'll have guys like that to thank for it. I think Pete Berg is obviously doing a great job with Griquas and of Jimmy Stonehouse, Mr. Biceps. Pumas are flying. Everybody's rooting for France and the Cheetahs. So yeah, I mean, I think the playoffs are definitely going to be worth watching. And you know, everybody's got their heart in their sleeves in those sort of playoff games for national honors. You know, it's going to be great.
All right, and then just before we go, a reminder to enter the competition, 100,000 Rand to be won. Register all your details. You don't have to put your bank details there just yet, and you could win 100,000 Rand. End of June, we'll make that draw, and you get free access to SA Rugby Magazine's monthly digital version, brilliantly produced by Simon Borchardt, the editor. But Zels, I know you're a guy who loves confrontation on a rugby field, not off the field, on the field. Rugby is a collision game. It's not ballet, as it's not a dance. It's a collision game. It's a contact sport, as Heineke Meyer famously always or infamously said, depending on who you are when you listen to it. And I know you're a big fan of Henry Pollock and the fact that he's so involved in games and he's a bruiser. Did you see his bruising escapade on the weekend when Northampton lost by a record score to Leicester? When he took on a South African, maybe he was trying to suss things out before the 4th of July fireworks. But Andre Liegenberg, it was a bit like Anthony Joshua against Jake Paul, suitably embarrassing with a smile.
Man, it was like watching like a Chihuahua barking at a Doberman. You just like, I mean, I don't really know what result can come out of this except for one. And no, it's getting a bit farcical now. I think he just needs to let his play do more of the talking. I think his talking is doing too much of the talking now. And I think he needs to choose his battles a bit more wisely. He's still a huge fan of his, and I still think he's exactly what English rugby needs. But maybe we're just getting a little bit into the sort of Don King territory now.
But Eddie Hearn is signing, for those who don't know, Eddie Hearn's one of the biggest boxing promoters, so maybe he thinks he is a boxer. But I went on to some of the comments, not in SA Rugby, but the overseas comments to see what they have to say about their own guy. And it reminded me a bit of when Willie Mason, the Rugby League Australian player, knocked out one of the Great Britain players in a Rugby League International. And at the 6th touchdown, for those who haven't seen it, the English player pushed Willie Mason. Willie Mason then just clocked him, down he went, and the commentator on the replay said, if you're going to push and shove, you got to keep your mitts up. So when I looked at Henry Pollock, it's like, one, if you're going to pretend to be a boxer, you got to put your gum guard in and you got to throw a punch.
Exactly,
And
mate.
it was dance. And Andre Liebenberg will be coming back to the Bulls, looked at him with a smile. But the most telling thing for me, Zels, was that half the Northampton team, when he started, just turned around and walked away. They were just not interested in it whatsoever. I'm reminded of what Jamie George said when they interviewed him, the Saracens, England, and the British and Irish Lions hooker. And he spoke about the value of Pollock. And he said everyone has an idiot. And in this case, he's ours. So...
It was so well said.
So, be warm, Zels. Get back into that duvet. Love to the family. We'll be
Thanks, mate.
as soon as the sun comes out. Good luck to you guys this weekend. Cardiff, get the win. We'll be rooting for the Bulls and obviously the Lions in Munster. They just get 1 point out of that. I think they'll be safe. But given the way Munster are going, we never give up on the Lions. As Rudolf Stroily said, don't doubt us. We've never doubted Cash.